Good morning. Welcome to our 10:30 children's story time. I want to tell you a little bit of a story. This is only the second time that I've sat over here in this chair. Last time I kind of did a little object lesson. This is another object lesson. I've got it covered up. Didn't want you to see it beforehand. A couple months ago, back in February, we have a little dog. If you've been watching with us, you know that we have a little dog named Cooper, and he's about 13 pounds. He thinks he's a lion, but he's really a little scaredy cat. But he likes to bark and growl and act like he's all mean. But we take Cooper out so he can go to the bathroom, and so after dark, he still has to go to the bathroom, and so before bedtime, I take him out in the yard there off the side of the house, and when I go out there in the dark, I always take a flashlight with me. I turn the porch light on, we walk outside, and then I have a flashlight. And the reason I have a flashlight is because we live in West Virginia. We live out not in town either. We're out in the country, and we're in a subdivision. We have neighbors and things, but that doesn't mean there couldn't be a bear. There could be a bear walking through our neighborhood. There could be a coyote. And that's my biggest concern, because Cooper's only 13 pounds, and the coyote would love to grab Cooper up and snatch him away, and I wouldn't have my little dog. And so when we go out, I always have a little flashlight, and I shine it around. And a couple months ago, I noticed a couple days in a row, as I shined, Cooper went out to take care of his business, and he was on one side, but I shined the light over on the other side across the driveway, and I've got a little building there that's got like 2 steps up into that building, and something in the dark was sitting on those steps. But I shined the light, and all I could see was 2 beady eyes looking at me, watching me. And the first night, I shined the light, tried to figure out what it was, and it just sat there on that step in the dark. The next night, when I took Cooper out, I wonder if that thing's still there. And so when I went out, and Cooper went off to the side, take care of business, I shined the light back over there, and there it was again, the second night in a row. And this time I started walking towards it. And I got about halfway across the driveway, and it disappeared. It went out of sight, whatever it was. It wasn't a gigantic beast or anything like that, but it didn't look like it was a little tiny thing either. It was bigger. I knew it was bigger than a mouse or a rat, but it wasn't as big as a rhinoceros or anything. But, and then I didn't see it anymore, and I set a little trap, little box trap, and tried to catch him, and nothing happened, and he disappeared, and I never saw the eyes anymore until yesterday. And yesterday afternoon, I had reset the trap a few days ago, and I put an apple inside that little trap. And the way that trap works is if something walks in, the apple's at this end, and if you walk in here, the door's walking right before you get to where the apple's at, you step on something that springs that door shut behind you. And now, whatever it is that's in that cage, that trap, you're caught. And so, I caught it. I wrote about this in our newsletter a couple months ago. I had people ask me, did you ever find out what the beast was that you saw in the dark? So I want you to see it. It's inside this cage. I've got it covered up. I want you to see what we've got. It's Mr. Groundhog. Mr. Groundhog. When I walked up to the cage, he started hissing. He started clicking his teeth, and he's got nasty looking claws on the end of his fingers, and I haven't tried to be mean to him. In fact, I've got a cabbage leaf. If he would eat this cabbage leaf, I'd give it to him. I'll see what he does. See if he eats that cabbage leaf. It's right there. If he would just eat it. Why do I want to show you this today? Well, there's a lesson to be learned here. See, the apple in the end of the cage was the thing that enticed this, that drew this groundhog into this trap, into this cage. If I wouldn't have put something that looked really good and tasty in there, he wouldn't have wanted to come in there. But because I had done that, he ended up falling into the trap. And this trap is like sin. Sin will trap you. If you're a young person that has gotten around some so-called friends, and they do a lot of drinking, and maybe you didn't drink, but they've drawn you into it, and now you go, and they have a bonfire, and they sit around, they drink beer, and they think they're having a really good time, and maybe for a little bit they're having fun. They're laughing and telling stories and just having a good time, but it's a trap. The Bible, God's Word, talks about that trap. You can get caught in that kind of a trap, and then one day you wake up and you realize you tried to drive and you were a little, maybe you didn't think you were drunk, but you were a little buzzed, and they call it buzz driving, and maybe you had a wreck, and maybe you hurt somebody, or even worse yet, you hit somebody got killed, and now you find yourself in jail somewhere. You're in a trap. See, here's the thing we got to remember, remind ourselves. Sin will always take us further away than we wanted to be. See, this groundhog right now, he's not anywhere where he wants to be. He's not at home. He's not in his nice little comfortable home. In fact, looking at him here, his nose, he's rubbed his nose on his cage. It's a little pink and raw. He's hurt himself. And so sin takes us further than we ever intended to go. And it hurts us more than we ever knew it could. And it keeps us longer than we intended to stay. See, this groundhog, he just thought he was going in and get this apple and then leave and everything would be okay, but it's not okay. And I just, yesterday, Joe Simmons, our neighbor, came over and turned the ground up where I'm going to have a little garden. And if you're a country person, you know that a groundhog is the worst thing just about you could have, living close to your garden. So I can't let Mr. Groundhog go here. You might say, well, what are you going to do with Mr. Groundhog? Well, there's an illustration here in this lesson about what I'm going to do too. I could take my little .22 gun and shoot Mr. Groundhog, and that'd be the end of it. But I've decided I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take him on a little ride and turn him loose somewhere, maybe at the edge of the woods where he can find himself a new place to live. He'll have to find a new place, but I'm going to show mercy. God shows mercy. And if we got what we deserve as people, we would deserve to end up in hell, that wicked place known as hell. But God's merciful. He doesn't want that to be the end of us. Instead, He wants us to have a new life, a new chance with Him as one of His children. If the devil, see, if I were a real mean owner, I could take this groundhog and I could just starve him. I could just say, I ain't feeding you. You're just going to stay in that cage. I could sharpen me a stick and I could poke that groundhog. I could take a baseball bat and just beat on that groundhog. I could do all kinds of things to that groundhog. But I'm not going to. I don't want to do that to it. And the devil, see, if the devil's your master, he gets us in a cage, and that's the kind of stuff he does to us. He wants to make our life miserable. In a sense, it's like he's beating on us with a baseball bat. He doesn't love us. But God, in His mercy, when we're trapped, when we find ourselves in a real difficult spot like this groundhog's found himself, God, in His mercy, says, I'm going to be kind. I'm not going to mistreat you, and I'm going to treat you good. I think this groundhog, last year he was here living. I saw him a couple times. I had some little cherry tomato plants, and I think he was eating my cherry tomatoes. And he deserves, in a sense, he deserves to be punished for that. But I'm not going to do it. I'm going to show mercy. I'm going to be kind to him. I'm going to turn him loose, give him a new chance. And so that's what God does. God is a loving, kind father and a friend. And when we've messed up, even when this groundhog, he can't look at me and say, will you forgive me for eating your cherry tomatoes? He can't say that. But when we lie, or if we fight with our brothers and sisters, or we steal something, or we run around with the wrong kind of friends and get ourselves into trouble, we can say to God, God, I'm sorry for that. You know what God says? I forgive you. Because God's got a lot of mercy. So, Mr. Groundhog's going on a little ride probably later today, and he's going to find himself a new home. He's going to find out what mercy looks like. Okay, Mr. Groundhog, I think in the meantime I'll name him Phil. Phil the Groundhog. Have a good day.